They could witness it historically, like those two men coming back from Jerusalem on their way to Emmaus. They witnessed the cross. Jesus Christ died in front of their eyes, and they missed the message. Because that death did not confirm their expectation, did not confirm their doctrine. They were hoping that he would be the King of the Jews. And then he went and died on them. They had a political expectation, and he died on them. And they became so blindfolded by their ignorance that they did not even recognize him when he walked with them. For 8 miles. How many miles an hour can you walk? Just a couple of hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours that they walked. And in their passage, he began to open the scriptures to them. And while he talked to them, they witnessed later, did not our hearts burn within us when he opened to us the scriptures? Suddenly, the whole picture fell into place. All these fragments that God spoke prophetically from generation to generation fell into place. Not in a beautiful page in the book, but in the person of Jesus Christ. You see, that is the communication that God desires to bring to us. An understanding that something that the prophets spoke of concerning his suffering would introduce us to glory again. So all have sinned, yes, and fallen short. There's no distinction, says verse 22. There's no distinction. The same all who lost the glory of God, verse 24 says, are now justified by his grace as a reward, as a gift. Through the what? Through the redemption that is revealed in Jesus Christ. So we're not focusing on the extent of Adam's transgression. In Romans 5, Paul makes Adam look ridiculous. He says, if through one man sin was introduced and it had a global impact, we were condemned because of Adam's transgression. Paul says, how much more? Much more, like the lunch bar gospel, the much more gospel. He says, much more. He says, beyond all comparison. You know the size of a 200-liter drum? The Zimbabweans will know. How many 200-liter drums would you need to park on the beach? Some of you have seen the sea for the first time in the last few days. And you've just seen a little clip of the ocean. It's called Walker Bay, the section here near Hermanus. How many 200-liter drums would we need to carry to match just this clip of ocean? The ocean is beyond comparison. It's beyond comparison. You're not exaggerating when you say that. There's no comparison that can match your effort. Batty Britt said to me a beautiful, an old year's Eve, he was preaching in Gansbaai, and used this beautiful illustration. He says, if you take off on this journey on an ocean liner, you're going from here to New York on an ocean liner, and you decide halfway, you know, I'm going to do this myself. And you dive in, you start swimming. You think you're going to make it? They do not ask you for your swimming certificate when you board that ocean liner. There is another certificate that carries more value than your swimming certificates. That vessel was inspected. That vessel has a certificate of seaworthiness. We need to understand the seaworthiness, the integrity of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Otherwise, every time we proclaim it, we'll proclaim it with a little bit of apologetics. Paul says, I add no apology to this gospel, because this gospel is the power of God unto salvation for everyone who believes. Where does their faith come from? From the revelation of righteousness, from faith to faith. This is download of faith. Faith is not some reward that you get for praying loud enough or long enough, or fasting loud enough and long enough, or silent enough. I'm not doing the talking right, I'm just going to get thin. We think that, you know, God's a reluctant God, and He needs our effort to put pressure on Him so that He can reward us. We think, I'm quoting Bertie Brits again, he said, faith, it's got nothing to do with something that you do to get God to do something back to you. Faith is something that happens to you when you realize what God has done for you. The language of the Old Testament, do. Language of the New, don't. Let's not get confused. So in the revelation of the gospel, God declares mankind innocent. And He's issuing a certificate, a document of proof, of payment. What was His document of proof? There were two documents. The first one we read about in Colossians 2:14. Document of guilt. What was the document of guilt that was nailed to the cross? It was the flesh, the human body, representing every body on planet Earth. One died for all. Therefore, all have died. If you cannot make that calculation, please don't try and preach the gospel. There's no gospel outside of that calculation. There's only one gospel, says Paul. And this gospel is the conclusion of God, not the invention of man. Religion is man trying to invent God. The revelation of Christ is the revelation of the invisible God made visible in human form. Why did He come? Did He come to be a historic hero? No. He came to reveal something. Something that Adam lost, the image of God in human form. The fullness of the Godhead. The fullness of the Godhead that the heavens cannot measure. Measured in a man. Measured in a man. And you are complete in Him. You see the mirror? There's no message outside of the mirror. Otherwise we're just back to window shopping mode. I wish to become. I hope to be. Imagine the story of the ugly duckling. And here this ugly duckling is confronted with the mirror image of truth. Beautiful swan. We should call that story the beautiful swan, not the ugly duckling. And this beautiful swan, with an ugly duckling mindset, beholds the face of its birth, the face of its design, as in a mirror, and gets confused. Too good to be true. Oh, here's what I'll do. I'll go for a few facelifts. I'll go for a few facelifts that will improve my looks, and I'll begin to eventually look more and more like Jesus. Maybe I can attend a few seminars, and I can study the swan behavior, so I can fake the best swan possible. And on my performance, I might just stand a chance to sneak into heaven one day. Does that sound like gospel? That's a lot of nonsense. There's no gospel in that. Gospel means good news. We get goosebumps when we hear gospel. Ooh!